My story about keeping tapes of my late wife. You might find it hard to believe when I say that I couldn't forgive my wife for a seemingly small act that deeply hurt me. I kept tapes of my late wife, Chloe, so that my daughter could learn about her mother. But my wife decided to throw them away. Let me share this emotional story with you. My story with Chloe started in college. We met at a casual gathering through friends, and after a few conversations, I knew she was someone special. Chloe was not only beautiful, but also intelligent and full of determination. We quickly became a couple, and our love grew stronger with time. After graduation, we decided to get married. The early days of our marriage were the happiest days of my life. We began building our little family, and the greatest joy came when Chloe announced she was pregnant. It was our first child, and we were both excited to welcome our first daughter into the world. When we found out we were having a baby, we decided to document every moment of the pregnancy. We bought a video camera and started filming small snippets, from moments as simple as us having lunch together to talking to our unborn child. These tapes were not just memories, but a way to capture the miracle of bringing a new life into the world. We promised each other that we would only show Eleanor the tapes on her 18th birthday so she could understand the love we had for her, even before she was born. Chloe and I always believed that these moments were priceless, an irreplaceable part of our family's memories. We were so happy to have them, and I hoped that one day Eleanor would watch them and feel the love and care we had for her, even though she never got to meet her mother. However, life is never as easy as we hope. Our short time of happiness was soon interrupted by unforeseen tragedy. When Eleanor was just 2 years old, a horrible accident took Chloe's life. She passed away after a drunk driver crashed into her car while she was returning from her mother's house. Chloe's death shattered me completely, and I couldn't face the reality that I would have to live without her. I fell into a deep depression. Losing Chloe was a devastating shock, and nothing could replace the woman she was in my heart. What hurt even more was that Eleanor, my precious daughter, would never know her mother. She would never feel her mother's embrace, hear her voice, or have the opportunity to talk to her the way I once did with Chloe. Despite this, I kept all the videotapes we made during the pregnancy. These tapes were all I had left of Chloe, and I hoped one day Eleanor would watch them and feel the love her mother had for her. After Chloe passed, my life completely changed. I felt as though the world had collapsed beneath me. Losing her meant losing a part of myself. Eleanor was only 2 years old at the time, and I had to face the pain of becoming a single father. Every day was a major challenge, and everything seemed to be filled with emptiness. I didn't feel strong enough to overcome this loss. My friends and family kept urging me to go out, meet new people, and start dating again, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. Every time I tried, I felt like I was betraying Chloe. Every memory of her still lingered in every corner of the house, from the pictures and small conversations we had to the videotapes we made during the pregnancy. I couldn't simply forget about those memories. Those years were incredibly difficult. I had to live a lonely life while still trying to be a good father to Eleanor. Every day, I worked hard to raise my daughter, but deep down, I always felt the absence of Chloe. No matter how much I loved Eleanor, the void left by Chloe was a pain that couldn't be erased. During those years, I never thought about dating or looking for new love. Chloe was my only wife, and I felt like I couldn't love anyone else. But everything began to change when Eleanor turned 13. I met Wendy at a birthday party for my sister. Wendy had just gone through a divorce and had 2 kids of her own. We quickly found common ground and became friends. Wendy was not only easygoing but also understood the challenges I had faced. The loneliness I had been living with slowly started to disappear with her around. However, I still couldn't forget Chloe, and her memory always remained present in every moment. When Eleanor turned 13, I started to open my heart more after years of sorrow. Wendy entered my life smoothly and naturally. She had been through a divorce and had 2 children. However, what made me feel comfortable was that Wendy didn't mind the fact that I had a daughter growing up in the absence of her mother. She also loved Eleanor as part of the family and didn't mind when we shared stories about Chloe. But there was one thing I couldn't ignore: Wendy always seemed uncomfortable when I talked about Chloe. I never tried to compare the two, but I wanted Eleanor to know about her mother. That's why I would share stories about my life with Chloe, the videos, the moments we spent together. Every time I mentioned Chloe, Wendy would react strangely, from long silences to cryptic comments. I could tell that she didn't like that I was holding onto the memories of my late wife, and I knew it made her uncomfortable. Still, I tried to explain that my love for Chloe didn't take away from my feelings for Wendy. However, the tension between us always lingered. Things seemed to be fine until one day, when Wendy suddenly expressed her feelings. She said that I talked about Chloe too much, and sometimes she felt like she couldn't compete with the image of my perfect wife. This was a blow to me, but I also understood that Wendy wasn't someone I wanted to hurt. I just wanted to preserve the beautiful memories of Chloe, not to harm Wendy, but so that my daughter could feel the love that Chloe and I had for her. But these feelings seemed to make Wendy feel insecure. Our relationship began to grow increasingly tense. Wendy began expressing her discomfort about Chloe's presence in our lives. She started feeling like I always put Chloe above everything, as if I was still living in the past and couldn't let go of my feelings for my late wife. Every time I mentioned Chloe, whether it was a small memory or a story about our daughter, I could sense her discomfort in her eyes and her attitude. I knew she couldn't avoid feeling like she was living in the shadow of a woman who seemed perfect in my eyes. Although I tried to explain to Wendy that my love for Chloe was part of my past, and I loved her for who she was, it seemed Wendy couldn't overcome the insecurity. She frequently compared herself to Chloe, especially when talking about appearance and background. Chloe was a beautiful model and had a successful career, while Wendy, though I loved her, always felt like she couldn't measure up to the towering presence of my late wife. Wendy said she didn't feel good enough and couldn't replace Chloe, which deeply saddened me. This tension came to a head when I decided to share the videotapes of Chloe with Eleanor on her 18th birthday as a special gift. I was excited because I thought Eleanor would be deeply moved to see the images of her mother, a part of the past she lost when Chloe passed away. But when I told Wendy about this plan, she unexpectedly reacted strongly. Wendy didn't say anything for a few minutes, then quietly walked away. I felt something was off, but I couldn't have predicted how intense this situation would become. Just a few days later, Wendy did something unimaginable. She found the box with the tapes and threw them away. When I asked her about it, Wendy said that she couldn't stand me living in the past and that I needed to move on with my life. She explained that keeping the memories of Chloe and sharing them with Eleanor was only pushing me further away from reality. Wendy didn't realize that it wasn't just my memories. It was how I preserved a part of the love we had for our daughter. The hurt and pain I felt was indescribable. When I discovered that Wendy had thrown away the tapes, my heart shattered. They were not just precious memories of Chloe and me, but also a special gift I had prepared for Eleanor on her 18th birthday. These videos weren't just images of the mother that Eleanor never knew, but they were moments that captured Chloe's love and sacrifice throughout the pregnancy. I had kept these tapes for years because I wanted my daughter to be able to see her mother and feel the love Chloe and I had for her. When Wendy told me that I needed to move on and leave the past behind, I felt betrayed. I couldn't understand why she would act this way. I tried to explain to Wendy that keeping these memories of Chloe didn't mean I didn't love her, but I was trying to give Eleanor a connection to her mother. But it seemed that no matter how much I explained, it only made Wendy feel more hurt and pushed out of the picture. We argued a lot about this. Wendy started blaming me, saying that I couldn't get over the past and always put Chloe above everything. That feeling was really hard to take, and I couldn't stand it when she didn't understand my feelings for both her and Eleanor. I couldn't live a life where I couldn't hold on to what was important to me, especially the memories of Chloe. The next day, I began to feel loneliness and disappointment. Wendy apologized to me and said that she didn't realize how much she had hurt me. But at that moment, I couldn't look at her. I felt like I couldn't continue living with the woman who threw away the one thing I had left to connect to my past. I couldn't forgive her immediately for what she had done, and I knew that this relationship needed a big change for me to regain trust and love in it. Now, I'm struggling with conflicting feelings. I still love Wendy, but the pain from her actions makes it hard to pretend everything is fine. The big question in my mind is, can I continue this life with Wendy, or will I have to let go to protect the values and memories I've always cherished? After everything happened, I felt completely lost. Wendy threw away the tapes I had kept for years, memories of Chloe and moments I had promised to share with Eleanor. I couldn't understand why she would do this, though I understood that Wendy was feeling jealous of my past. The hurt came not just from her not understanding me, but also from feeling that I was being forced to choose between two important things: my love for Wendy and my belief in the memories Chloe and I had created. Although Wendy apologized and said she didn't understand how much she had hurt me, I couldn't easily forgive her. The hurt still lingered, and I couldn't just ignore the great loss she had caused. This story isn't just about the videotapes. It's about me feeling forced to forget about Chloe's past, to forget the love we had, just because Wendy didn't feel secure. I began asking myself if I could continue living in a marriage where I couldn't be true to my feelings. Could I continue being with a wife who didn't understand that I needed to keep memories of Chloe because that was my way of maintaining a connection to the past and helping Eleanor understand the mother she would never know? I understood that Wendy was also dealing with her own insecurities and difficulties, but I couldn't live in a relationship where I couldn't express my emotions freely. Now, I stand at a difficult decision. Can I move past this hurt, forgive Wendy, and continue life with her? Or will I have to let go of this relationship to protect the values and memories that I hold dear? The answer isn't easy, but I know I need to make a decision because, in the end, I need peace and respect in my life.